it's Paul with Cruise Planners Getaway Gang and my partner in crime, Ed. How are you today, sir?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. We're here with Travel Talk Live on February 18th of 2020. We're plowing through the month, and it's the third Tuesday of the month, which means it's time for Destination Spotlight, and we have been really excited about this one because we're talking baseball.
Baseball! We're talking baseball. Sing it, Paul.
I start singing that every year about this time, and Stephanie just kind of goes, ugh. But anyway, we are definitely we're gonna focus today on spring training destinations as our destination spotlight, and it's true this time of year. The weather is not great in a lot of the country, and a lot of people, millions really, go to Arizona and to Florida to take in not only America's pastime, America's greatest sport, but also enjoy the warmer weather in Arizona and Florida while they're at it. So there is a lot to talk about today. So Ed, let's get into it.
Yeah, but it's all really entertaining. First, a little bit of history about spring training. The idea of clubs practicing in warmer climates to avoid the wintry weather and prepare for the upcoming season can be traced all the way back to 1870, when the Cincinnati Red Stockings and the Chicago White Sox took part in an organized 4-day baseball camp in New Orleans, Louisiana. And many people consider that event the first official spring training. That's over 130 years ago there, Paul. That's exactly 130 years ago. Most clubs preferred training in their hometown, but as early as the 1890s, many teams were starting to train on the road. Unlike today, where teams would stick to one area, these clubs would tour several towns, putting on exhibition games, in order to generate some additional revenue. It was not uncommon for ball players to travel by train through the night and then play exhibition games the following day. Sometime in the 1920s, modern day spring training, the way we know it, began to take form, with teams starting to settle into certain cities and areas for their training, rather than travel all over. For instance, the Cardinals were training in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the Yankees spent time in both New Orleans and later Phoenix. By the 1940s, most major league teams had established a remote spring training facility. Some interesting spots were as follows. The Pirates trained in Hawaii.
Oh,
the Dodgers were actually in Havana, Cuba in 1947 and 1949. The Yankees trained in Cuba and the Dominican Republic in the early 1950s. And many other teams held camps and games in northern Mexico along the border during the 1950s and the 1960s.
Yeah, and now we've kind of settled in here in modern times to really just having two areas, two leagues really for spring training. The Cactus League, which is in Arizona out in your neck of the woods, and the Grapefruit League, which is played throughout Florida. And actually teams have been visiting Florida since the 1890s for spring training, and really it began in earnest in 1913 with the Chicago Cubs training in Tampa and the Cleveland Indians in Pensacola. A year later, two other teams moved to Florida, and that was really the real true start of the Grapefruit League. Now, the Cactus League has been hosting games since 1946, when the Indians and the Giants made it their home for spring training. The Cubs and the Yankees joined in 1951, and it eventually expanded to 8 teams, which remained remained with 8 teams until the 1980s. And Florida started with a push and pull, started to try to take teams away from Arizona, and the government and the state passed several laws to raise money in order to build new facilities, new stadiums for major league teams. And Arizona, of course, they said 2 could play at this game, and they quickly made some adjustments and enacted some laws of their own in order to keep baseball in the state. So it's kind of settled out. Today, the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League are equally split, with 15 major league teams playing in each division. Now, this is big business for both states. The Cactus League in Arizona, it generates close to $350 million each year, in terms of revenue for the state and the Phoenix area, and 1.5 million fans attend games every year. The Grapefruit League draws very similar number, 1.4 million fans, but actually has an estimated economic impact of $752 million each year. So, spring training baseball is it's big business, and a lot of people enjoy it. So tell us a bit more, since you are in Phoenix, Ed. Let's dive into the Cactus League a little bit. So.
Gosh, I love the Cactus League, man. Just ever since I moved here to Phoenix, I was right here in the heart of spring training. I've seen it grow so much. Now we're at 15 teams. It's great. The Cactus League baseball league delivers proximity, scenery, and history. Where can you go to see half of the major league's 30 teams play without having to drive more than 47 miles and oftentimes much shorter distance? That would be the Cactus League, where 15 teams prepare for the season in a relatively tight radius of 10 stadiums surrounding the beautiful Valley of the Sun, Phoenix. Now, a few of the stadiums, actually all of the stadiums, we got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies. They both play at what's called the Salt River Fields in Talking Stick, Scottsdale. Salt River Fields has become a must-see ballpark during spring training, not just for how the stadium's unique architecture, extensive food options, and sun-soaked grass berms, but for how close the fans can get to the players on the team's practice fields located beyond left field. Players walk through the fans to get from one field to another, and there's also an autograph area that is reserved for kids only. One popular draw is the Salty Senorita, known for its margaritas for the adults, and chicken and fish tacos and fresh Mexican food for fans of all ages. Fans will literally run when the gates open to reserve their tables, chairs, and umbrellas because it overlooks the bullpen patio area, which is open to anyone with a ticket. Fans can set their food and beverage on a drink rail at the bullpen and watch relief pitchers work, close enough to hear the explosion of the ball hitting the catcher's mitt. The next stadium is where the Chicago White Sox and Los Angeles Dodgers play. It's called Camelback Ranch in Glendale, Arizona. Along the lake that separates the Dodgers facility and the White Sox facilities, the Dodgers have what's called the Legends Walk, which includes 10 all-star panels and several 3-foot diameter baseballs, paying tribute to the Dodger greats. The outfield berm seats at Camelback Ranch are a popular in-game location, while fans who sit down the first base line have a good chance to get autographs from players walking out of the field around game time. Some seats have a great view of South Mountain. As far as hidden food gems, you got to check out the barbecue cart up from home plate on the concourse.
Mm-hmm.
The next ballpark is a Goodyear Ballpark, where the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Indians both practice. Goodyear Ballpark is, of course, in Goodyear, Arizona, and it's designed to give fans a clear view, great access to players, and a day of baseball that does not need to be limited to just the game. The Estrella and White Tank Mountains provide a nice backdrop for a park on the western edge of Greater Phoenix. One great feature for kids is just down the right field line. In a grassy area behind the first base seats, there's a mini field for kids to play ball, and with inflatables where they can hit wiffle balls and pitch. A short distance away behind right field is the Party Pavilion, where fans can get shade from the sun, some food and adult beverages while watching the games.
Sounds good.
Fans sitting along the third base line by the Reds dugout area have increased chances of getting autographs for the players before and after the game. I imagine it's the same for the Indians too. I've just never been to an Indians game. And between innings, there are numerous chances for fans to win prizes by answering trivia, sumo wrestling, and more. It's a great. They may have a lot of fun there at Goodyear. The next stadium, Surprise Stadium, is the home of the Kansas City Royals and Texas Rangers. The beauty of Surprise Stadium and Recreation Campus is the open-air intimacy of the ballpark and the compact design of the facility, which allows easy access to the practice field. It's a smaller park. It actually has a smaller draw from the fans because you don't have as many high-profile teams playing there regularly. The facility was designed specifically to allow 2 baseball teams to get ready for the season, allow their fans to get an up-close look at the players at work while seeking autographs. Parking is easy. The backfields are right behind the main stadium, and the open air concourses allow fans to walk around without missing any of the action. Another one up in the Northwest Valley area in Peoria is the Peoria Sports Complex, home of the Seattle Mariners and the San Diego Padres. It's been open for 26 seasons. Going into the 26th season, the Peoria Sports Complex has long been a spring training destination for Padres fans and Mariner fans and baseball fans alike. The ballpark features a cozy, up-close atmosphere with a number of in-house attractions, among which the left field pavilion stands out. The pavilion, a massive tented area that overlooks the visiting bullpen, features lounge seating, games, and access to a restaurant and bar. It's easily one of the most enjoyable ways to take in a Cactus League game. The recently renovated 12,000-seat facility offers plenty of parking, a multitude of food options beyond normal ballpark fare, both on-site and nearby Bell Road restaurants in the Arrowhead area, which is just packed with tons of restaurants, and a new kids area for families to play in before and during games. Now, those were all the shared ballparks. There's 10 ballparks together. 10 teams share 5 ballparks, and the other ones are all dedicated parks. One of the biggest in Arizona, it was just recently built in 2014. It was Sloan Park in Mesa, home of the Chicago Cubs. Now, the Cubs have a huge following here. And Sloan Park is the largest stadium by capacity in the Cactus League. It was with 15,000 seats.
Wow.
One of the best things about the Cubs spring training ballpark is how close it is to the team's complex. You can arrive early, park your car, then walk to the complex to watch a workout before the first pitch. Some fans like the tailgate before the games, but there's really good food inside, and it's cheap, especially if the food trucks are present. Those are even better. Nice. They park right in the right field area, and you're gonna. I'm gonna mention this later, but you're gonna spend a lot less money on ballpark food in spring training than you would at a regular Major League Baseball game. Another thing about Sloan Park, you'll see hints of Wrigley Field everywhere, including a replica marquee perfect for a photo backdrop. Plenty of shaded seats. If the kids need a diversion, then they can always play at the nearby Riverview Park. Another stadium is the Los Angeles Angels spring training home, which is called Tempe Diablo Stadium in Tempe. This is one of my favorites. I've been there several times. It's founded in 1968. Tempe Diablo Stadium has been the Angels spring training home since 1993. Though it is one of the older ballparks in the Cactus League, extensive renovations were carried out in 2005 to keep it aging well. The main field, which was christened Gene Autry Field in 1999 in honor of the former Angels owner, is set against a memorable backdrop with a hillside butte jutting out towards left field. Popular concessions includes the nachos, which I've got several of these hats. He's inside an Angels helmet. And the Tempe Tap Room is also there, a beer tent that serves Four Peaks craft beer, among other offerings. The Brewers actually play in a place downtown in Maryvale called American Family Fields. The massive state-of-the-art renovation of the Brewers home in Phoenix was completed this year, or actually last year, 2019, and it will keep the club anchored at the park at least through 2042. In addition to an overhaul of player facilities, the park features a new entry plaza behind home plate anchored by the retail store, plus a new scoreboard. The next stadium is Hohokam Stadium in Mesa. It was actually the old stadium of the Cubs. It's now the home of the Oakland Athletics. And the A's, they recently, when they moved in there, they renovated it, and it's quickly become one of the more enjoyable spring training experiences in the Cactus League. Fans are treated to a great guest experience with Bay Area favorite food and beverage options, including Ike's Place sandwiches, along with outfield berm seating that brings them closer to the action, all set to the backdrop of beautiful mountain views. And finally, Scottsdale Stadium, home of the San Francisco Giants, is right in the heart of Old Town Scottsdale. Nice. Scottsdale Stadium is a preferred Cactus League destination for many reasons. It's really close to Old Town Scottsdale. There's plenty of lawn seats. The seats are really close to the action. And there's the taverns and restaurants and shops are all within walking distance or shuttle bus distance, and fans can visit before and after the game. A truly unique spring feature, however, is the access fans have to Giants players. Autograph seekers congregate in an area outside the clubhouse that allows the players to come and go without fuss, yet brings the fans close enough to make polite requests for signatures.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, a few tips if you're heading to Arizona. Here's a few tips going to the games. Buy your tickets ahead of time, but really you only need to do that for the marquee matchups. Some games will sell out, but they are usually the weekend marquee games. Often you can just walk up and get tickets at the ticket window, or do what I love to do, go on StubHub and find great price tickets for just a few bucks. The ticket prices have been going up over the last few years, but they're still nowhere near what you pay for a regular season Major League Baseball game.
Yeah.
If you're somebody like Paul and you've got to have your tickets early, go ahead and grab them online.
What do you say, Ed?
Like I said, I recommend StubHub. It's one of my favorite apps, but you really don't need to. You can make an impulsive decision during spring training season here in Arizona. Just go to a game. Take a small backpack with you with the essentials for the lawn seats. This is one of my favorite tips. If you're going to go sit on the lawn, bring a backpack with you. They'll let you bring in, sunscreen, a blanket, and many of them will let you bring in sealed bottled water as well, or an empty reusable water that you can fill up when you get to the park. In some cases, outside food is allowed too. If you can bring in some pretzels or bags or stuff like that, or whatever. But nevertheless, review stadium policies before taking a big backpack filled with goodies. The stadium, just make sure it's all posted on their website. You can find each stadium has their own website and their rules and restrictions. And even still, though, like I said earlier, the food at the ballpark is unforgettable. And it's not as expensive as a regular MLB game. So go enjoy that. Save on tickets, splurge on lodging. Whether you want to or not, you'll probably be paying a lot already on accommodations in and around Phoenix, since this is our most popular time of year. But since you're saving some money on these these baseball tickets and food and drinks, you might want to consider splurging on your Phoenix or Scottsdale accommodations. One of my favorite examples is the Fairmount Scottsdale Princess, which features close proximity to the TPC golf course, home of the Waste Management Open, multiple pools and a poolside beach, restaurants like La Hacienda by Richard Sandoval and Bourbon Steak by Michael Mina, and an on-site tequila goddess. Seriously. Additionally, many other hotels also offer spring training packages. Give them a call, say you're coming to town. Things like free transportation to the games, or free nights with a qualifying stay. If you want us to check this out for you, we can get on the horn and find out for you and put this whole thing together for you. Also, vacation rentals are also becoming increasingly more and more popular, especially ones that are close to the ballparks. You can find them, and they usually have still a pretty good deal, especially if you're traveling in a larger group and you want something with multiple bedrooms. You don't want to spend an arm and a leg on a bunch of rooms at a hotel. Another tip, stay near the action. Many fans, and of course that depends on what you mean by the action, right? Many fans, baseball fans, they just plan on going to the games and seeing their favorite teams, and that's it. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to stay near your team's home stadium and catch a couple games. If action to you means food, nightlife, shopping, then I recommend staying in Scottsdale or Tempe, being relatively close to Old Town or Mill Avenue, or maybe even Central Phoenix, which is up and coming, so that you're equal distance to all these places. Take advantage of free transit. This is one of the things that Scottsdale and Tempe have over Phoenix, is that they have free transportation to some of the ballparks over there. Most notably in Scottsdale, they have the free Scottsdale trolley, which during spring training makes a stop at Scottsdale Stadium where the Giants play. Also, there's a free shuttle between Talking Stick Resort, where the Talking Stick Entertainment District, where the Salt Fever Fields are located, where the Diamondbacks play, and the Rockies. And that goes to downtown Scottsdale. And there's also one that goes to Mesa from downtown Scottsdale, and from Tempe the Tempe Marketplace and the old Mill Avenue. And there's also a shuttle that goes from Mill Avenue to Angels Stadium, Tempe Diablo Stadium. So take advantage of the free transportation in Phoenix to get to some of these games. And then don't just eat at the stadium. I know I was just talking up stadium food, but Phoenix and Scottsdale are home to some of the finest cuisine in the country, believe it or not. And the diversity alone of the food will satiate even the pickiest of appetites. One of the top destinations, as I mentioned, is Old Town Scottsdale, home to many bars, restaurants, old-timey saloons, and great local sharps and art studios. And finally, my last tip, if you're coming to the Cactus League, take a day, see Arizona, right? Arizona is one of the top destinations in the world in the springtime, and you won't want to miss some of the beautiful sights while in town. You might want to consider taking a day trip and going up and seeing the Grand Canyon, or heading down south to Tucson, which is close to Tombstone, Arizona, the old Wild West town. Explore the desert and lakes that surround the area. There's lots of opportunities to get some great excursions in. If you don't want to travel too far, there's plenty to do in the city as well. Phoenix is home of some of the best shopping areas, outlets, malls, golf courses, casinos, and even local hiking. There's a big mountain right in the city called Camelback Mountain, which is one of the top hiking destinations in the Southwest. So if you come to Phoenix, you got to check out Arizona while you're here. So it is totally. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Florida?
I lost you there for a minute. I'm not sure what happened, but I just wanted to say I'm thrilled with your passion about Arizona and the Cactus League, and I can tell. I have to ask, though, have you had a Sonora dog at one of these stadiums? Because that's what I'm interested in.
I haven't seen one there, but it's close by. If you go to Mesa, there's a lot of restaurants nearby that have Sonoran dogs. And I'll have to check on that.
All right, that's my assignment for you. Because
no, Salt River Fields, where the Diamondbacks play, there is a Sonoran dog stand there, and I did have one. That's right.
Because if I'm going to get Stephanie to come along with me, she's going to demand a Sonoran dog.
Absolutely, so. We'll go see the D-backs play.
Awesome.
There we are.
I'm there, dude. I'm there. Well, I'll talk a little bit about Florida now. Back on the other side of the country, where Eddie and I met and grew up and spent plenty of time in Florida while we lived in Georgia. Although I never made it to a spring training game, but there's a lot going on there. The Grapefruit League, as we talked about, it's been a tradition for over 100 years, since the late 1800s. It's a great tradition for both connoisseurs and casual fans and people who just love being in the sun. As I mentioned, there's 15 teams that train in Florida, but unlike the Cactus League, which is a little more compact in the Phoenix area, the Grapefruit League is spread out over Central and South Florida. 12 of the teams are along the east, they're close to the east and the west coast lines, and a couple in the center of the state. But there's a lot for fans to take in. We'll call it a hot dog filled journey, since what goes with baseball like hot dogs. So let me run down, like Ed did, some of the teams and the stadiums. I know there's only really a couple that share stadiums. Most of them have their own field. The first is the Tigers, which play at Publix Field at Joker Marchant in Lakeland. Joker Marchant Stadium has been home of the Tigers since 1966. It's actually the second oldest ballpark in the Grapefruit League. The ballpark and the Tigertown complex sit on the site of what was Lodwick Field, a pilot training air base during World War II. 3 of the hangars from the old base remain standing and are used by the club and the Lakeland Parks and Recreation Department. The ballpark offers a view of Lake Parker, which is the largest of 38 named lakes in the city and one of the many waterfront parks that define Lakeland's natural beauty. It was remodeled and made to look like Comerica Park, which is in Detroit, and it's definitely a tradition-rich place to watch baseball. The next spot is Cool Today Park in Sarasota County, which is home of one of our old favorite teams, the Atlanta Braves. And Yeah, it's brand new this year. Beginning in 2020, they're going to call the state-of-the-art complex in West Villages, Florida, their spring training home. And West Villages is a master plan community in the city of Northport in Sarasota County. Cool Today Park is a result of a collaboration and cooperation and financial contributions from the state of Florida, Sarasota County, the city of Northport, and the Atlanta Braves, and Matt Amy Holmes, the developer of West Villages, Florida. So it's a pretty big conglomeration there that brought this all together. In addition to baseball, it will host a multitude of special events at the facility throughout the year. The Atlanta Braves have spent 72 consecutive years in Florida for spring training. That's a pretty good tradition. And they're going to continue here through at least the next 30 years in West Villages and possibly longer through their commitment there. So, yeah, it is awesome. One of the shared stadiums is between the Houston Astros. Not sure how I feel about the Houston Astros right now as a Dodgers. And the Washington Nationals, and they trained at the Fit Team ballpark of the Palm Beaches. Both teams relocated here to the Palm Beach complex in the 2017 season. It is a Fit Team ballpark is 160-acre complex featuring fan-friendly 7,700 capacity. That's a nice size. And it's got 6 practice fields per team, so a lot of space there. Fans will find shade and a 360-degree concourse, the banana boat lawn, suites, and party decks in which to enjoy an all-encompassing spring training experience. When they moved to the new spring training facility, the Washington Nationals announced that 3 former participants in the President's race run during the regular season at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., racing presidents Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, and William Howard Taft, going by Cal, Herbie, and Bill, had retired permanently to Florida, where they would compete against one another in races held during National Spring Training games. The races take place during the 4th inning of Nationals home games. So I love the racing presidents, Cal, Herbie, and Bill. The Mets play in First Data Field in Port St. Lucie. First Data Field has been the home of the Mets since it opened in 1988, and it's a replica of the Mets' former stadium in New York, Shea Stadium. No visit is complete to First Data Field without sampling a taco in a helmet. I know Steph would be interested in that.
That sounds promising.
Yeah, it's the stadium's unique take on Mexican fare. And in addition to the park is a party deck. I love the sound of that. In right field, giving fans an option in addition to the tiki bar down the left field line. Also unique to this ballpark is the St. Lucie Bat House, a habitat constructed beyond right field for between 10,000 to 15,000 bats, and those aren't baseball bats, that previously took up residence in the stadium.
Wow.
And drive inland from Port St. Lucie, within an hour you'll find Lake Okeechobee, which is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the country. Areas around Okeechobee offer camping, biking, hiking, and other outdoor activities. So that sounds like a great option for those who love those outdoor activities as well. Another shared stadium in the Grapefruit League between the Cardinals and the Marlins is Roger Dean Stadium, which is in Jupiter, Florida. Roger Dean Stadium was built in 1988. It features large boxes, field boxes, loge boxes, bleachers, a grass berm, and luxury skybox seating. It seats about 7,000 people, and another 200 fans can spread out on a blanket and get a closer look at the game from that grass berm, which sounds pretty amazing. It's located just in front of the party deck in right field. If you're taking in a game, you won't want to miss the game day experience in downtown Abacoa. Nearby restaurants and sports bars are filled with fans throughout Grapefruit League season, and all of it is within walking distance to the stadium. The Twins play over in Fort Myers at Hammond Stadium, which was built in 1991. It's located in the CenturyLink Sports Complex. That ballpark has a capacity of 8,730, which is another nice size. And it's also the home of the Twins' Class A advanced affiliate, the Fort Myers Miracle. The exterior of the ballpark is modeled after Churchill Downs, the famous Louisville racetrack, complete with a fountain and rows of parking that are named after former Twins greats. So I'm sure Rod Carew is one of those. Red Sox play at JetBlue Park. Also,
I believe that's JetBlue Pack.
JetBlue Pack. The Red Sox play in JetBlue Pack in Fort Myers. Boston's ballpark, JetBlue Pack, is informally dubbed Fenway South. It opened in 2012, and inside it resembles Fenway Park, complete with a green monster wall in left field, of course, upon which fans can sit, just as they do in Boston. As expected, tradition is everywhere, including a Ted Williams statue just outside the ballpark, and glossy photos inside the main concourse that chronicle the greatest moments in Red Sox history. And fans who come to Red Sox camp won't go hungry. There are eateries all over Fort Myers, particularly at the Gulf Coast Town Center, an outdoor shopping area about 5 miles south of the ballpark. A team from just over in the Tampa area, the Rays, plays in Port Charlotte at the Charlotte Sports Park. Among the interesting features of Charlotte Sports Park, which was built in 1998, is the seating, which affords several options, including 5,000 fixed seats and 2 berm areas. And in left center field is a full liquor tiki bar that has a seating capacity for up to 69 fans at a time. That sounds up my alley. For those with children, the kids clubhouse zone, located behind the berm seating and right field area, features a playground area, and fans don't have to miss any of the action to walk around the ballpark. A 19,000 square foot wooden concourse stretches around the outfield to provide 360-degree pedestrian circulation and impressive views of the field and the bullpens. That sounds cool. Yeah. Over in Sarasota is Ed Smith Stadium, which is home to the Baltimore Orioles. This is considered the crown jewel of the Grapefruit League. Ed Smith Stadium was in need of an extreme makeover, and fortunately it got one to the tune of a $31.2 million expenditure after the spring season in 2010. The Orioles first after leaving their previous spring home in Fort Lauderdale. The revamped ballpark, which features Spanish-style architecture, has received rave reviews. The Orioles' retired numbers hang from under the press box and suite area, and a quote from Cal Ripken Sr. is displayed on the outside. Fans can enjoy shaded areas over their seats or go to the left field lawn for a more laid-back atmosphere, with concessions ranging from the traditional hot dog to, of course, crab cakes for a decidedly Baltimore field. The seats are refurbished ones from Oriole Park at Camden Yards, while the 3 air-conditioned suites are numbered 66, 70, and 83, corresponding to the team's 3 World Series championships, so the years that they won the World Series. Nice. It also features 100 high-definition televisions and a high-definition LED video board in the outfield. Over in Bradenton, the Pirates play at Lecom Park, which was originally built in 1923 and then renovated in between 91 and 93. The Bucks have played their spring training games since at this park since 1969. It received another complete facelift in 2008 and more upgrades before the 2003 season. It is the senior facility of the Grapefruit League, but it still retains all the charm and the history. Renovations include new grounds, wide access ramps, concession stands, kiosks, and improved sight lines. The palm tree-lined park features 1920s Spanish mission-style architecture using masonry, stucco, and architectural steel materials. There's a public plaza and walkway around the park, and the fans can sit pretty close to the field, but still it can seat up to 8,500 people. It's often sold out for spring training games, so if you're interested in that park, make sure you buy your tickets early. A couple more stadiums here. The Phillies play at Spectrum Field in Clearwater. Wow. It was built in 2004. So Spectrum Field is the second newest ballpark in the Grapefruit League. It is a replica of Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia. Phillies fans will feel right at home, and they can boo their team just like they do back at Citizens Bank Ballpark, like good Philly fans do. Bright House Field might be the best spring training ballpark in Florida. Wait, is it Bright House Field or Spectrum Field? Oh,
It used to be called Bright House Field.
I see. Gotcha. I'm sorry. I lost my notes there for a minute. It has an enjoyable atmosphere, and the fans continue to experience after the game, listening to live music at the Tiki Pavilion in left field. Seats are available beyond the left field wall, which is a great way to watch the game. Lenny's is located practically across the street and is a must for Phillies fan looking for breakfast. It's advisable to arrive early before a game, especially on the weekends, because there will be
always a line. You always got to wait for Lenny's.
Yes, exactly. The Blue Jays play over in Dunedin at Dunedin Stadium. It's been their spring training facility since it was built in 1990. Seats 5,510 people. Includes a press box level with air-conditioned skyboxes and 3 picnic areas. Dunedin has hosted the Blue Jays since their inception as a team in 1977, and it also hosts their Class A Dunedin Blue Jays and the Dunedin Falcons high school baseball team. It previously ranked as one of the top 5 places to watch a spring training game by Sports Illustrated, so sounds like you may want to check it out. And last but not least, George M. Steinbrenner Field must belong to the Yankees over in Tampa. Hey, now we don't want to.
All right. That was the Bronx cheer, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. So George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa was originally called Legends Field. It has the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, down to the inch. It was insisted to be so by the boss, who, and the story goes, phoned the Bronx from Tampa during its construction and had an employee go to the outfield wall with a tape measure during a driving snowstorm just to be sure the measurements were correct. That absolutely sounds like something Steinbrenner would do. Yep. The Yankees have made improvements to the complex over the years, including adding a right field Tampa Tribune deck party pavilion where fans can dine and soak up sunshine during games. It was built in 1996. And it's the largest ballpark in the Grapefruit League with a capacity of just over 11,000 people. A statue of Steinbrenner was erected outside the home plate entrance after his 2010 passing, and an exact replica of which stands inside Gate 6 at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees also have their own version of Monument Park outside the field's entrance, featuring all of the club's retired numbers and plaques about each player's career. So there are a ton of places all over Central and South Florida to take in spring training games. A couple tips before we wrap things up in terms of watching Grapefruit League baseball. Think about where you'll spend most of your time before you book your hotel. The big mistake fans typically make is focusing on a beachfront property, but that's not really the best idea if you're a typical baseball fan headed down to Florida, because none of the ballparks are on the beach. Games are almost always mid-afternoon, so save money on the beachfront hotel, spend instead on drinks and dinner as the sun goes down. The Tampa Marriott Waterside Hotel is grand, comfortable, and centrally located. It's just a short car or Uber ride, about just less than 6 miles from Steinbrenner Field. The Waterside is also just half-hour ride across the Courtney Campbell Causeway to Spectrum Field, where the Phillies play, and Dunedin Stadium, where the Blue Jays play. So that's a good hotel spot. Just 40 minutes to Lakeland to catch the Tigers at Publix Field, 45 minutes to Bradenton for those who would like to see the Pirates, and just over an hour to Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota for an Orioles game, or Cool Today Park, the new home of the Braves. So that's kind of like a great spot there.
Yeah, Tampa's like right in the heart of a lot of those.
Yeah, to be within an hour striking distance of many stadiums. For those who would like to watch the Astros or Nationals play at Ballpark of Palm Beaches, enjoy comfort and quirkiness at the Chesterfield Palm Beach, a relaxing English-style hotel, which is 50 minutes from the Mets Park in Port St. Lucie as well. Hotel Indigo in Fort Myers is a pretty getaway just a few miles from JetBlue Stadium, where the Red Sox and Twins play, and just a 35-minute spin to witness the Rays at Charlotte Sports Park in Port Charlotte. Another tip, don't restrict yourself to ballpark fare. Just like you said.
That was my tip.
Exactly. The menu is much more limited in Florida stadiums than it is in your average major league park, but there are many bistros in Sunshine State that are well worth visiting. The West Tampa Sandwich Shop is a must. It's inexpensive and excellent. The annual question is whether to deal with the wait at Lenny's restaurant in Clearwater. Parking spots are few, and the lines, particularly the morning of the game, as we said, are lengthy. But the complimentary basket of Danishes and the strong cups of coffee are served. All is forgiven. So those in West Palm Beach would be remiss if they passed the Pistache French Bistro. PFB is a hip cafe with an array of seafood and vegetarian options. And if you're over in the Fort Myers area, check out Ford's Garage for burgers and beer. So those are just a few suggestions. There are obviously many great selections. Bottoms.
My thing, man. You had me at burgers and beer.
Burgers and beer. I'm a simple man. That sounds great to me too.
Yeah.
Bottoms up after the last out. Ciro's Speakeasy and Supper Club is just that, a speakeasy. The Swanky Tampa Bar requires a password, which you're going to obtain by calling ahead. The atmosphere is definitely Prohibition era, down to the clothing worn by the staff, and the drinks are stiff, particularly the Georgia Julep. Also, the world of beer, it's self-explanatory. It's in West Palm Beach. It's part of a chain, but it offers beers from around the globe. And the world-famous cigar bar, yes, in Fort Myers, offers strong libations. And it's a plus, the walk-in humidor is huge. So
wow.
You're only 250 miles from Havana, but it doesn't feel that far away. And finally, have some fun away from the diamond. Of course, we all are familiar with many great tourist opportunities in Florida. A couple we can suggest: driving the Tampa-St. Petersburg roads isn't especially fun, but the Gulf is wide open, and behind the wheel of a speedboat, it is exhilarating. Try Speedboat Adventures in St. Pete for a chance to do something you probably don't do at home, and that's drive a speedboat. In Fort Myers, if you're up for some history and the site of an idyllic 21-acre botanical garden, the Edison and Ford Winter Estates is up your alley. The adjacent winter homes of Thomas Edison and Henry Ford are off the banks of the scenic, and I'm not going to try to say this, Caloosahatchee River. Close enough. And on the other coast, you can go snorkel at pretty Peanut Island in West Palm Beach. The 79-acre island also houses a Cold War era bunker built for President John F. Kennedy, whose family had an estate nearby. So, good Lord, we could go on all day. We've gone on 40 minutes already because, as you can tell, we love baseball. We love Florida and Arizona. And if you're looking for a chance to go there, we can definitely help you make that a reality. So this was just scratching the surface.
That's right.
And Eddie, thank you so much for putting together all this fantastic information about. My
pleasure.
Yeah, it was. These were great notes. And if you have questions about any of this, just drop us a line here, drop a comment, send us an email, go to getawaygang.com, and we can answer all your questions. We love to talk baseball and obviously love to talk travel. So what do we got coming up next week, Ed?
Next week, we have our travel advisor Q&A. We didn't do it last month for various reasons, but we're going to be doing it this week.
Mainly because I had pink eye.
That's right, yeah. So don't go rubbing your eyes anywhere you shouldn't, Paul. And
that's
we'll
right.
Answer some questions that everybody has. If you have any questions for our travel advisor Q&A, please leave them in the comments today. And like always, if you like what you see, if you like our show, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. We have fresh content every week, at least this show. And thanks again for watching today. We'll hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us. I know it was a little bit of a long show, but hope you found it worth it because,
and I hope to see some of you guys here in Arizona for spring training soon.
That's right. All right, Ed, we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.